How can you say that there is black privilege considering the history behind the black struggles? Black people have been enslaved.
Yeah, by other black people.
Let me talk.
Where was the
Let me talk. Don't interrupt me, because I'm not interrupting you.
I'm a black woman.
No, I don't care.
And with that, this is how we start the video. Now, this video is coming courtesy of Gothix. Gothix used to be someone that was on the left, very hardcore, very atheist, very determined in her beliefs, like the young brown girl that was talking to her right there, until one day she said, you know something, I'm going to start doing my own research. I'm going to start looking at some of these issues that I've been told that I must think a certain way. And I'm going to start investigating it and thinking about this stuff on my own. And lo and behold, she changed over to becoming a conservative. Now, this is part of the walk away movement. It's like, just like Talking Point USA, they like to go and tour campuses and talk with these college educated supposed intellectuals and youth who's supposed to be able to think. But I don't think that's kind of a true thing here, but I digress on that. Anyways, Gothix has over 357,000 subscribers, so she don't need me to toot her horn or put her out there like that. But I still want you to go over there and give her a follow. I've been following her for a few years. She's a real cool girl. Also works for Rippaverse Comics. Shout out to Eric July on that. Make sure you guys do like, share, subscribe, turn on your post notifications, all that good stuff. And without further ado, let's get back into this video.
I'm a person of color too.
Whoa!
I'm a person of color too.
Oh, okay.
And you're interrupting me. And I'm not interrupting you, so don't interrupt me.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Continue.
I can give you
And just before we do continue, notice the smugness that she has on her face. And then the smug look slowly turned to a smile as she got affirmation from the crowd. Oh, I showed that Gothix. I showed that black girl. So I don't care that you a black girl. You a black girl with the wrong political views. That's what really determines your worth. How dare you? I'm a brown girl. I'm a brown leftist. Don't you know who I am? So disrespectful. But she needed that affirmation. And that's what a lot of these leftists do. They do a lot of this bullshit for affirmation. They always need the affirmation of others to justify whatever nonsense that they're engaging in. But Gothix is being respectful, because I'm assuming Gothix is much older than this girl. This girl doesn't look to be more than 21, 22 years old. Still wet behind the ears, barely graduated high school, thinks she knows everything. Well, she's about to educate this black woman on what she's supposed to know. Yeah. So let me go ahead and let it continue.
example of how black people are not privileged today. Okay. For example, the medical system. Black women are not giving painkillers because they were considered and they are stereotyped for being tough. And many of those women have died for not being medicated as they should.
I get painkillers.
Another example can be the prison system. Many of the people that are in prison are people of color.
Okay, did they commit crimes?
Yes.
Okay.
But
okay.
But most of the time they are detained for crimes that are not even as bad. They could be detained for stealing something of, let's say, a small amount of money.
Okay.
Also, I don't know how you can be sitting in a table talking against your own racial identity.
And there it is right there, folks. I can't believe you are voting and speaking out against your own interest. Shouldn't you be interested in helping keeping the colored folk? I don't say people of color because I've never gotten a good response as to why there's a difference between people of color and colored people. Colored people sounds great to me. Sounds better to me, matter of fact. Don't know why you are not for colored folks not being locked up for committing petty crimes, or the black woman not being able to get medication, getting the painkillers. All of that's nonsense. First of all, you can easily go to the store and get painkillers over the counter. But when you go to the hospital, they're going to give you painkillers, anesthesia to operate on you, to do whatever it is needed to help you stay well and to deal with pain as it comes and goes while you're in the hospital. Don't know where she even got that. That just seems made up to me. That seems like something she just made up on her own. And then about the crime, Let me tell you something. There is no limitation as to the amount of monetary value that a property has or the amount of money you steal that determines whether or not you're going to be arrested and put in jail. If you steal 10 cents from someone and that person decides to call the cops on you and press charges, he's going to get laughed at for doing something stupid. However, the police must still take you in because you stole from that person. We don't have a tolerance for stealing. Now, I know some places don't like to enforce the law, like California, or they'll make excuses or make up laws that say if you steal above or below X amount of dollars, we're not going to come out and arrest the person. That, of course, encourages crime. But in the United States of America, we are supposed to have a zero tolerance for crime, or rather stealing, crime too, but zero tolerance for stealing. If you get busted stealing, you're going to get arrested and you're going to go to jail. And that's how it should be, because we shouldn't have a society that encourages theft. And if that happens to be mostly because the colored people or the people of color can't keep their sticky fingers to themselves, well, that's their fault for ending up in jail, young lady. It's not society's fault that they're ending up in jail. But let's let Gothix go ahead and continue.
Identity isn't in my skin color. That's
But you
the
are
problem.
black.
I'm not blind. I do see that I am black.
Bro, if I had $1 for every time some college intellectual implied that because God blessed me with this skin tone, I should be holding certain beliefs and espousing certain talking points, I would be rich. Like, not regular rich, filthy rich, okay? It always baffles me that these students go to university and they learn all of these ideologies about, implicit bias and dismantling white supremacy and systemic racism, and yet they have no idea that they're being racist in the process of saying this nonsense. Like, they have.
And that is exactly right, because colleges nowadays are indoctrination camps. They are not institutions of higher learning. And just to give an example from my own personal life, several years ago when I was still in college, at Mesa Community College, I had a sociology teacher who had assigned to us a presentation that we needed to do on some type of social thing at the time. And I was assigned affirmative action. My group was assigned affirmative action. And at the time, I didn't know I was making an affirmative case for affirmative action. So I had, unbeknownst to me at the time, because I was a political neophyte, really wasn't on either side of the aisle, because I really didn't care. But at the time, I was the quote unquote fiscally conservative and more socially liberal. But I exercised that socially liberal nonsense out of me. So unbeknownst to me, I made a negative argument for affirmative action. And the sociology teacher got pissed. And within the middle of my presentation, she had just cut me off and said, "You are ignorant on affirmative action." And at the time, I didn't know any better. I couldn't really pick an argument with her or anything like that. I shut down, and my teammates had kind of just pushed away because they didn't want any part of it, which is fine, because I was the one that was really mostly doing the work on the project anyway. And I was like, wait a minute. Why would you just come out and just talk like that? But I've been thinking about that for years. It's a Hiroshima moment, if you will, for me, because I always go back and think to that moment when she just called me out like that. And now I'm thinking back, that was indoctrination. That was straight indoctrination. We only have one way of looking at affirmative action. And if you try to argue against it, you're ignorant. And of course, me being black, well, that was even doubly so. So that's all these campuses are now. And just wait until these people start graduating with thousands of dollars in debt and nothing to show for it, other than the indoctrination their heads were filled with, to hate America, to hate white people, to hate their culture, to hate their traditional values. Nothing but hatred in their hearts, and they can't stop and think, well, wait a minute, why do I think like this? It's because you were hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, scammed, and up the creek without a paddle. Left up the creek without a paddle.
It just, the anti-racists are always racist. And it's hilarious to watch. How could you sit there and make a generalization about what my belief should be based on my skin tone? How should a black woman think? You know, and however you decide to answer that, it's going to sound bad regardless. You know, that's just crazy to me. Now, second of all, I don't know if you caught it, but I pulled the whole Kamala thing, like, excuse me, I'm speaking, because that's been the rhetoric for like the last couple of years is, listen when a black woman is speaking. And so here I am trying to speak, and she says, I don't care. Oh, I'm sorry. These are your rules that y'all made up, and now you don't want to, oh, okay. You know, I can't keep track, honestly, and this is why they say that the left eats itself. Granted, the right can also do it to their own side as well, but...
Yeah, and in regards to that point about the right, that is absolutely correct. I just did a video on Netflix's live action version of One Piece, and one of the characters in there, Vivi, and this is some nerd talk, so if you don't understand this, that's fine. In the manga and the anime, she's portrayed as white, but in the show, she's been turned into a person of more of Indian/Middle Eastern descent, and that just sent the right into a tizzy. They're calling that this was an unnecessary race swap. I beg to differ on that. I say it's more trying to be ethically accurate to portray the character and the region for which she lives. If that region were based in a Middle Eastern territory, which it is, but on Geeks and Gamers Daily, and I'm not saying this about Geeks and any of the hosts on Geeks and Gamers Daily or the owner of the Geeks and Gamers Daily, but within their chat, there was someone that took issue with what I said and went to look at my YouTube page, took one look at it, and says, oh, you just take one look at it, you can understand what side of the aisle why he supports what this is going on here. And I had to retort back and say, what do you mean by that? Have you checked out my content? If you did, you would realize that I actually agree with you on race swaps in principle and in general. I don't like race swaps. But if something is factually incorrect, then I'm going to call it out, whether you're on the right or the left. But so, yeah, the right can certainly eat their own. It just is not as prevalent as it is on the left, but they can be just as dogmatic if you don't toe the line on certain issues where there's already a determined way to view things.
These ideologies will inevitably implode on one another because it's not rooted in fact and reality. Let's get into this video. If it hasn't yet, I'm just letting you know, I'm giving you a fair warning. This video is going to piss you off because it certainly pissed me off when I was there live in person. I just could not believe that I'm sitting in the midst of these college intellectuals who are probably taking on thousands of dollars worth of debt to say nonsense like this, okay? So that's just a fair warning.
So how can you sit there and say that black people have privilege when they don't? For example, if a police were to pull you over, you're not going to have the same privilege as your counterparts. They have more privilege than you.
That's an assumption.
That's not an assumption.
What privilege do these guys have?
That's not an assumption.
What privilege do they have that I don't?
They're white. Like the example that I gave you, if a police...
Just white by default?
If the example that I gave you, which you're ignoring, if a police were to
I've been stopped by the police. Okay.
And what has been your...
I paid my ticket and I drove on my way.
But unfortunately, not everyone has that privilege.
It's kind of fascinating that only someone on the left can think that being pulled over by the police is some kind of privilege. It's not a privilege to be pulled over by the police. But of course, obviously the brown girl is incorrect. Anyone that gets pulled over by the police, if you happen to be respectful and cordial and kind to the police officer, chances are the police officer is going to be respectful, cordial, and kind back. You're going to exchange words. He's going to give you your ticket, and you're going to be on your way. But that's not a privilege. That's not a privilege or anything like that. that is all entirely incumbent upon the actions and behaviors of the two parties involved. And usually, if a police is escalating, it's more than likely because the person who got pulled over escalated the situation. We never blame the perp for the escalation. We always demand that the police officers de-escalate. I got newsflash for anybody who thinks like that. Once the police gets involved, you have escalated the situation to their level. It's not the police officer's responsibility to de-escalate. It is your responsibility to de-escalate. It is your responsibility to tamper down, to bring yourself down, and to make the situation calm. But again, we don't want to sit there and put any type of onus on the individual. It has to be put on someone that is outside the individual. And in this situation here, the cops. It's not. There is no special privilege that white people get over black people or any other race. It just simply comes down to how you carry yourself with the police. Let's let Gothix and this girl continue.
Okay, so then it sounds like it wasn't something specific to white privilege or black privilege. It's just the fact that we had a good interaction, and I gave him respect, and he respected me, and we went about our day.
See, again, this is exactly what I mean. She totally makes a generalization about black folks without realizing how extremely racist it sounds to imply that because of what I look like, all of my interactions with the police have been negative. Like, who are you surveying? Who did you ask? You didn't ask me. If we're gonna sit there and make generalizations, then she should be willing to take on that same type of rhetoric. Okay, well, all Latinos are illegal. They're all illegal. You jumped over the fence, did you not? By the way, I misspoke when I said I paid my ticket and I went on my way. Obviously, you know, the officers, they don't take credit card at the window. But I'm trying to make the argument that, yeah, I have had many interactions with police officers, and you know why? Because I was doing something wrong. I was speeding, I didn't fix my headlight, whatever the case may be. But either way, I didn't end up dead. I didn't end up as like on a mural in some city. No. I showed him respect. I kept my cool. I was calm. I was collected. I smiled. A lot of people don't know how to smile. Hey.
By the way, that's all real good advice for people. And that's what I always tell individuals, whether you're white, black, or whatever. Comply with the police officers. Control your actions and control your behavior. Don't immediately jump ugly because you got pulled over by the police. A lot of people in this country have irrational hatred for police based on absolutely nothing. Even if you had a negative interaction with another police officer, you don't have to generalize and say, hey, that other police officer is going to treat me just as bad. You can control you and keep you from jumping ugly. And I like that thing at the end. Especially for women. I don't know why our society really tries to tell women not to smile more. One of the most disarming things that a woman has that can really control a situation in a room is by having a naturally beautiful smile on her face. When a woman is smiling, it immediately disarms people. I try to smile as much as I possibly can because I want to put people in a good mood too. I always try to smile. It's so much, and when you're smiling, it feels so much lighter on your face. It feels so much natural on your face than having a scowl and a frown. It just takes a lot of pressure off of you when you're smiling. And just back to the advice for the cops. Trust me, if you guys do this, if you do exactly what you said, you just be cordial, respectful, smile, comply with the police officer's commands, be courteous, it's going to reciprocate. and then you may still end up with a ticket, but at least you're going to end up with a ticket and not with your handcuffs around your arms, being hauled off to a police station because you couldn't control yourself.
Pro tip, a smile diffuses a lot of situations.
Anytime that we live in a system that is not meritocracy based, everybody suffers, including the people who are
So you're
recipients
suffering just
of
because
the
a
privilege.
black person is able to have some type of
Every
help,
single
just
person-
because you don't have maximum privilege.
Every single time that anybody who is not qualified to have the position that they have is allowed to be given a position or an advancement or a promotion or are put in some sort of program where they don't have the qualifications to be there, every person suffers. Certainly, there are just as many proportionally black people or brown people who are skilled and advanced in any field as anybody else.
Like you mentioned.
But I'm talking about the fact that with the DEI programs, there are people who don't have the qualifications, don't have the skills, who are being promoted and advanced, and that negatively impacts everybody.
Like you mentioned, you were talking about people that don't have that privilege. Unfortunately, those people of color don't have that privilege just because of their color. And most of the time, they don't have that qualification due to their color.
What did he say?
Exactly. That was circular reasoning. And she think that because she was speaking in circles that she made a point. She didn't refute anything that the gentleman said. In fact, she interrupted him a couple of times there, didn't she? She didn't hold herself to her own rules that she established with Gothix at the beginning of this video. But this is something that you should be learning in philosophy or rhetoric or whatever when you're in college, to not try to argue in circles. That was all circular reasoning that she just used there. She thinks she made a point when in fact she's trying to get the gentleman to not address anything that she said, or that she's going to address anything that he said. She wants to stay on color. The gentleman wants to talk about meritocracy and people being qualified for certain roles that they're not qualified for. She wants to focus on color. She paid thousands of dollars to not learn that lesson when she could have just rented a couple of books from the public library for a bunch of late fees. If you're a Good Will Hunting fan, you know that reference.
That's why we have things like Jim Crow, because those people didn't have the qualifications due to their color. That's why we have the idea of the other,
So can I
which
ask you
is the
something?
idea that other people that are from different colors don't get the same privilege as a white person.
So you're on this campus. Did you get here because of DEI?
I got here because of my grades, but
Because
I'm
you're
not
merit.
done. I'm not done. Let me talk.
Because
Let me
you're
talk.
merit. I'm not done with my question.
You see how disrespectful she is? Notice how she's even more disrespectful to Gothix than she was to the white guy. Maybe her culture had taught her that you should be a little more respectful to men over women. Oh, I don't know. That's actually a good thing to have, but you can't say that nowadays. That'll get you called misogynist. But she's utterly disrespectful. I'm not finished. Let me talk. But Gothix wasn't finished. She wasn't finished with her point. And of course, she tried to gloss over the fact, I got here because of my grades. I didn't get here because of DEI. I got here because of my grades. I bet you dollars of donuts in the eligibility phase or whatever you call it, qualification phase to go to this college. The administrators looked more at her last name than they looked at her grades. They've already been busted on this. But let's let these two ladies continue.
As a person of color, I do benefit from DEI.
Okay, but you didn't get here because of DEI. You got here because of your merit.
But it was an aid. And that's the thing that I'm trying to get to.
Black
It's
people
an
have
aid.
access to aid.
Mm-hmm.
They have access to aid. DEI prioritizes skin color, not merit. And that's my question. You're here because of your merit. So you didn't need DEI. And that's what DEI does. It prioritizes skin
DEI
color.
does not
It's a
prioritize
checkbox.
your skin color. It just gives those
Yes,
people.
it does.
Okay, so I have to pause really quick because I don't know if you guys noticed this, right? So this chick gets on her soapbox and she starts talking about DEI and how DEI provides opportunities to people like me because I've been oppressed for so long in this country and I lack the resources to get an education. Again, very racist, but she just goes right over her head.
And by the way, what a lot of these woke leftists don't understand is that the program of diversity, equity, and inclusion was started by white people. So they're taking this handout from white people while at the same time denigrating white people. They don't understand that a lot of things that are happening in this country with regards to race and sex and gender and all this bullshit is because the white people are allowing it. The Civil Rights Act doesn't go anywhere without white people voting on it. Jim Crow South doesn't end unless white people actually end it. The slave does not become free unless the white man allows the slave to become free. There are no set-asides or no quotas being put in place unless the white people allow it. That's something that they don't get. The white man is still the majority race in this country, and he constantly keeps on trying to give power to the minority, but the minority is contemptuous of it. They still demand more of the white man while at the same time denigrating and hating the white man. Let me let Gothix go ahead and finish.
But isn't it interesting that as she's saying all of these amazing things about diversity, equity, and inclusion, she refuses to accept that she took advantage or she was a product of DEI. I wonder why that is. You know, could it be that maybe it's insulting for someone to imply that you didn't actually work hard to get where you are? You know, it's very interesting. So everyone else, all the other blacks and browns, you guys can benefit from DEI, but not me. Oh, that's a knee slapper. DEI, it's packaged as something that's beneficial for black folks, okay? But at the root of it, it's detrimental. You're setting people up for failure, and I'm going to explain why. What DEI does is it takes a look at any given industry. Let's say teachers, for example, okay? Let's say education. And you look at how many teachers are employed in that specific field, and you say, oh, there's a lot of white teachers here. And so DEI says, okay, we're going to prioritize skin color to bring in more black teachers. But what that's actually doing is it's lowering the bar. It's lowering the requirements for teachers because now you have this situation where, let's say, if there's an opening for a new teacher at a school, you have a bunch of white people apply, and then you have some black folks apply. DEI says, okay, even though this candidate who's black has less skills and less experience, we're going to prioritize hiring them over this white person who may have more qualifications. And so you are effectively lowering the bar. But the biggest issue that I really want to hone in here is that when DEI, when you take that into consideration for, let's say, entering a university, you are setting students up for failure because they're not ready. They're not equipped. Before you go into school, you should get a tutor, you should study, you should really make sure that you reach that bar, that standard before going into a certain field, because what ends up happening is that you're going to encourage more dropouts, okay?
And even before all that, I would say that an even more important attribute to have before you even step foot on a college campus is discipline. If you don't have discipline to be able to attend your classes every day, discipline to study, discipline to know not to go out late at night and party because you know you only have a certain number of hours in the day that you can contribute to, that you can partition to either type of activity. The discipline to have a good night's sleep, the discipline to be able to eat the right food so you stay awake. you're not going to be successful in college. And if you don't have the discipline to know what it is that you want to do before you even set foot on the campus, the last place where you want to start trying to find yourself is in an institution that's charging you $50,000 a year. I would much rather you find yourself working at McDonald's before you step foot on a college campus. But the colleges, they won't tell you that, because the colleges, they are there to make money. We're all supposed to hate the corporations because they're greedy and they're run by fat cats and heartless corporate executives and everything like that. But nobody looks at these colleges and these institutions that have these big endowments that just got fatter and fatter and fatter. The more and more financial aid has been stuffed their way from the federal government, raising tuition rates to astronomical levels to try to capture as much of that financial aid as they possibly can. They don't want you with the financial aid. They'll stick you with the bill of the financial aid, but they don't want you to keep all that financial aid for yourself. So having the discipline before you even step foot on a campus is more important than being able to study. Because you need to have the discipline to be able to study. You got to have discipline to do a lot of things. Let's let her go ahead and finish.
Again, if you've never heard of Thomas Sowell, I recommend you look this guy up, because he lays all the statistics down that things like affirmative action and DEI, stuff like that, it doesn't actually work. If anything, you're making more black dropouts, essentially.
Wait, let me talk. I'm not done talking. How can you say... I know. How can you say that a black person has privilege when they have been oppressed for so much? And then that oppression has been ingrained in America for such a long time. So you saying that I'm not done. You saying that black people have privilege is a way for you to feel better about your white privilege.
Yes, people have been oppressed. Black people have been oppressed. White people have been oppressed. At some point, you're going to have to get over it and move forward. This is 2025.
But it's hard to move forward when there's so many policies that are coming out that are affecting people of color.
I'm not affected.
You're not affected, but I am as a Latina.
How? Specifically, how?
I live in fear that my parents can be deported.
Okay. Are they here?
They're here illegally. If you live in fear of your parents being deported, why don't you tell your parents, hey, why don't you go become citizens? Nah, how dare you expect my parents to be held accountable? Don't you know I live in fear? I'd rather have the thin veil of oppression. My parents are illegal aliens. I mean, the gall of this girl. I'm a Latina. They want to be oppressed. They have no meaning in their lives other than the oppression. The oppression is what gives them meaning. And they don't even realize this. Gothix says, I'm not oppressed. Me neither. I'm not oppressed. I don't let anybody oppress me. Except maybe my wife, but that's a different story. But no, she's not oppressed. That pissed the girl off. How dare you say that? Of course you're oppressed. You're black. Don't you know you're oppressed? And then she accused her of having white privilege. So if you don't think you're oppressed, you have white privilege. Meanwhile, this girl is basically oppressing white people with her racism. Her blatant, open racism. This is something, I mean, we can tolerate the racism from the left, but they won't tolerate racism back towards them. We have to tolerate their racism and just say, there's just differences of opinion. But but we say something that may be construed racist to them. Oh my God, the world gets set on fire. Go back to that about the Vivi being ethnically cast, not race swapped, ethnically cast, ethnically accurately cast. Well, the left says, just saying, anybody who thinks that Vivi's wrong for this part, or this brown girl is wrong for this part, it's just because they're racist. No, it's not. But certainly making a big generalization like what this girl is doing about black people and white people, that is absolutely racist. By the way, I like the scowl on Gothic's face right there. She certainly, look at it. She probably got gray hair. She probably didn't want me to notice that, but she got gray hair from just having this conversation. But yeah, and then of course I like the white guy right there. Like, what the hell are you talking about? These people, they really think that they are wise beyond their years. They think they're educated. They think they are intellectual when all they are just indoctrinated brats.
Luckily for you, you don't have to fear that.
Are they here legally?
I'm not gonna answer that because I don't have to answer you.
Okay, so that's okay.
But I'm just telling you.
So if they are, then it's because they came here illegally and not because of the color of their skin, correct?
What does that have to do with immigration?
Because you said you live in fear that you're a Latina.
Do you know what immigration is? Immigration is coming here for better opportunities. What does that have to do with the color of my skin?
It has to do
We
with
have
coming
white.
Look at she's entitled. She's entitled. Her parents are entitled to come to this country for better opportunities. She's entitled to come to America. She's entitled to come to this college campus, which I bet she is paying in-state tuition, even though she should be paying she shouldn't even be on the campus at all. She's a goddamn illegal alien. And no, I'm not going to play that birthright citizenship bullshit. Me personally, I would strip every last one of these illegal aliens that were born here in this country. I would strip you of your birthright citizenship status. So no, you don't get to become a legalized citizen simply because your sorry parents skipped over into the border illegally, stole their way into this country, gave birth to you, and then said, hey, now you're an American citizen. No, you are still whatever it is your parents came from. If your parents came from Mexico, you are still Mexican. You are an illegal alien. That's how it should be. And hopefully the Supreme Court will be looking at that and will be determining it as that is exactly how it should have been all this time. But I digress on that point. She feels entitled. My parents came here for a better opportunity. What does my skin color have to do with that? She's the one that made the issue about skin color this entire time. They're making it about law and about policy. She's making it about her skin color. Such entitlement.
People coming here.
No.
No,
You
you do not
said
understand
that
what
as a
immigration
Latina,
is.
you're terrified of your parents getting deported. Why would they be deported if they're legal citizens?
Okay, now this last part here is, if there was a graph of all the mental gymnastics that you see in a video, it would look something like this. Like oh my goodness, she could not stay on track. She's making the argument that Latinos are being oppressed in this country because of all the policies that are affecting them, and specifically pertaining to how a lot of people are getting deported. And so I asked the question, did they come here illegally? And she doesn't want to answer the question, which, if you remember earlier in this video, I pointed out the fact that the left hates accountability. They don't want to admit that the reason why there might be an increase of black and brown people in jail is because they committed a crime. And so, why are they being deported? Are they illegal? I don't want to answer that. And so my friend Mikey comes out and he just asks her straight up. So it sounds like the reason why they would get deported is because they broke the law. And she just can't fathom why he would bring up race. It has nothing to do with race. Well, boo-boo, you brought up race. That was your argument. You're the one that said the whole reason that people are getting deported is because they're Latina or Latino. So it has nothing to do with race. And again, it's like, it's a way of redirecting the conversation so you don't pay attention to what the root argument is. And the root argument is that people who commit crimes should accept the consequences of said crimes. But she doesn't want to do that. Oh my goodness, it's so funny. But anyways, yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to see the full interaction...
And I'm going to leave it right there. And of course, if you guys want to look at this video without my commentary, I will, of course, link it in the description. Gothix is the Erica Hoffer of philosophers. I don't know if she actually went to college or anything like that, but she's done a lot of reading. Thomas Sowell, by the way, excellent resource. He should be the one taught at these college campuses, but he will never be taught at the college campuses because he does not regurgitate anything that these college campuses are teaching, or rather indoctrinating these kids' minds with. And so he's not going to be mentioned at all, but he is a valuable resource. Thomas Sowell, by the way, he's a black man. I think he's about almost 99 years old, almost 100, which he retired about 2 or 3 years ago. So he was still working for a while there. The late Walter E. Williams is another one. Another guy to check out. Glenn Lowry. By the way, these are all black men I'm telling you about. Shelby Steele, another one. All of these men are smart, erudite, and knows their things about and whatnot. And I'm not recommending them to you because they're simply black. I'm recommending them to you because they're very wise. And not only are they educated and intellectual, they are wise. And I value that more than just having a PhD. As you can see from right here, that little brown girl who's an illegal alien is about to get a college degree, but she won't know shit about what she's talking about. So there you have it. Make sure you guys do like, share, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. All that stuff really helps me out. This Chris Bolt signing off, and I will catch you guys in the next video.